One of the biggest problems that gamers have is moving into the real world and doing things outside of the game. I mean, if you guys could do whatever you wanted to outside of the video game, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be listening to me. And that's a perfectly reasonable problem to have, as crazy as that sounds. And what I'd like to do is start by digging into where does that come from? Why is it that you guys may have things that you want to do, but have trouble actually doing? You have hopes, you have desires, you have dreams, you even know what you should be doing, but you have trouble doing it. And so in my view, the way to actually get control of that, the way to control your behavior and start doing the things that you want to be doing, that you know you should be doing, is to understand where that problem comes from. In order to understand how to fix something, we have to understand what's actually wrong. And I think a lot of the paralysis that gamers have in doing things outside of a video game actually comes from the way that they're treated when they're very young. A lot of gamers are smart. Data actually shows that the average gamer is actually smarter than the rest of the average population, that you guys have higher IQs than the rest of the average person. And so what I found working with gamers is that a lot of gamers, when they grow up, they're told that they're smart. And so kids, when they're told they're smart, something very interesting happens. They start to develop this identity that I'm a smart kid. And when they start to develop an identity that they're a smart kid, they start to do things that reinforce that identity and stay away from things that contrast with that identity. So for example, if I'm a smart kid, I want to do things that other people are going to perceive as smart. But if there's something I'm not very good at, if there's something that I try and is going to make me look stupid, a kid is actually not going to do that. And so over time, what starts to happen is the smart kid only does things that make him appear to be smart, which means that things that are, generally speaking, easier, and stays away from things that are hard for them. And so this works out fine until they're like in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, because as a smart kid, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time studying. You can just do the things that you want to, and everyone, like your parents or your teachers or your family or family friends, are all going to say, oh, look at that kid, he's so bright. But over time, what happens is those kinds of kids start to avoid challenging things. Because whenever they do something that's challenging, they feel stupid. And that's not who you are, right? Because you're a smart guy. And I know all of you guys think you're smart. You think you're super geniuses. And the funny thing is that's true. But as I'm sure you guys know, being smart isn't enough. So let's kind of go back a little bit to this idea of a smart kid doing only things that they feel is smart. And so when they do that, what happens is they start to avoid difficult things. And as the kid gets older, that avoidance becomes kind of baked in. It becomes a part of who they are and how they move around in the world. And so this avoidance actually starts at a very young age. And if you stop and think about it, the hardest things for gamers to do, the hardest thing for you to do, is something where you're being observed by other people and you feel incompetent. And why is it that that bothers you so much? Even if those are people that you don't care about, even if you're never going to see them again, it's really hard for you to do anything where other people see how incompetent you are. And so what happens is gamers, they run away from any sort of experience that makes them feel less than smart, or where they feel kind of silly or incompetent. And that actually paralyzes you in life. Because most of the things that you do in life, you're going to suck at the very beginning. And so if that's the case, if that resonates with you, the next natural question is, if this problem starts because you have a kid who has built up this ego of them being smart, and in order to preserve that ego, they actually avoid doing anything that they have to learn how to do. They only do the simple things. Then you end up where you guys are now, which is that you know you should do a lot of things, but it's really hard for you to do them because of the way that you feel judged. So how do you get around that? The first way you get around that is by reframing a little bit. So in the world, we tend to value intelligence. And we say like, oh, so for example, I'm a faculty member at Harvard Medical School. And so when people learn that, the first thing that they say is, you must be so smart. And it's true, like, I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm actually probably not a whole lot smarter than you guys are. What the world actually values and rewards is experience and competence. Because if you think about it, a lot of people are really smart, but they actually don't amount to much. And that's probably the way that you feel right now. You feel that despite being so smart, you're not able to accomplish a whole lot in life. And 95% of gamers, when I talk to them about that, they say that it's because I'm lazy. And we'll dig into lazy, but for now I want to focus a little bit on reframing from smart or stupid to experience and inexperience. So the more that in your mind you can realize that actually your success has nothing to do with your intelligence. It has to do with your experience or inexperience and the degree of competence you have, the better off you're going to be. So I encourage all of you guys to think about what you want to do and try to tell yourself, try to reframe in your mind that it's not that I'm smart or I'm stupid, but that I'm experienced or inexperienced. And the more that you can start to approach situations like that, like let's say applying for a job, you can say, oh, I suck at interviews. But interviews require practice, and the more you practice at interviewing, the better off you're going to be. And so I encourage all of you guys, if you're feeling paralyzed in life, if you're feeling like you can't move out into the world and do the things that you want or should do, to first look at yourself and ask yourself, is the roadblock to me moving forward because I feel judged, because I feel stupid? And if the answer to that question, which I'd guess is yes, then the first solution that you have to do is a change in your mindset. Don't think of yourself as stupid, think of yourself as inexperienced. And the neat thing about that is that the more you think of yourself as inexperienced, the more you naturally realize that the solution to inexperience is to try things. And the funny thing is that when you try things and you accept that you're inexperienced, you're actually okay failing. And if you really look at yourselves, I would bet money that the problem that you have is that you can't tolerate the idea of failing. But if you can reframe to inexperience, then failure is kind of a normal part of it, right? You've got to learn, you've got to stumble a couple of times before you learn how to walk. And if you guys can make that shift, I think that's going to be the first step to you being able to move forward in the world and kind of overcome that obstacle of feeling like you're stupid or feeling like you're judged.